Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Southern Gateway Chorus live stream. My name is Zach Coleman.
And my name is Joe Hunter.
And I'm excited about the show today. I think it's going to be a little longer than usual. I don't want to tell you what I'm thinking about because I want to tell you what we're doing today. Joe, you mind if I take this?
Go ahead, go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Scott Brannon.
Hello, how's everybody?
Okay, how are you?
Thank you for having me here.
Scott, we are so excited to have you on the show tonight. Let me tell you something. Mike Bell, who you know, is my voice teacher. I see him every week, and I see him at Gateway too, obviously. And if I had a nickel for every time he was talking about a Scott Brannon story.
Oh, really? See, people tell stories about me that I'm not sure. I know there are things I don't remember. I've tried to block out about my past.
Sure.
My sordid past.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's actually a token of greatness. It says that, you know, that the legend becomes greater than the truth.
Right, exactly. The myth is bigger than the man. Right?
So before we get too far in everything, Scott, for those watching who might not know who you are, the few of them that there may be, give us your who the heck is Scott?
Well, I sang in the Cincinnati Kids, who were a medalist quartet in the 80s and a pretty popular quartet at the time. I directed the Big Apple Chorus for many years in New York. I also direct a Sweet Adeline Chorus in New Jersey now. That's an international competitor, and hopefully next time we have an international contest. And I also sang. I've been barbershopping since 1976. And I sang with Terry Clark and Larry Tully of the Boston Common in a quartet called Our Town, which won the Northeast District. And I've also coached Jimmy Fallon's Ragtime Gals quartet that sings on The Tonight Show, and done, coaching and singing and all that kind of stuff.
So you've been everywhere. You've just done a little bit of everything.
I've done a little bit of everything. Yes,
That's
exactly
awesome.
Right. Yeah.
I think that is possibly the widest rap sheet that we've had on the show so far.
Wow. It just means I can't focus.
Sure.
Well, you didn't say deepest. You said widest. So
yes, exactly. It's a lot of kind of skimming the surface, that's shallow right, stuff. Right. Exactly.
Yes, ADD is something that many people suffer. No.
Right. Yeah, we were just talking about that. In many senses, it's like Scott and I is like the bipolarity of life. Scott starting and Scott, what you didn't say is that Cincinnati Kids really originated out of the Gateway chapter. Also.
Right, we were all four in the Southern Gateway Chorus. We were at the time. I think we were the four youngest guys in the Southern Gateway Chorus, and we just happened to sing all four parts. And we would sing after rehearsals, and we decided, hey, you know what? It started actually as a high school quartet. Randy, our tenor, and I went to high school together, and we sang in a high school quartet. Then he and I joined the chorus. And then when it came clear that the other two guys weren't really interested in being the avid barbershoppers that we were, we found Steve and George. We sang after rehearsals with them. We said, this sounds pretty good. And we gave our first public performance on Nick Clooney's television show the week before the International in '78 in Cincinnati.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, aside from the being on TV thing, that's basically how my quartet got started.
Yeah, that's the best way for quartets to get started, is that they just like each other and like to sing together. Don't try to engineer something, just let it happen organically.
Pretty much. So what we were talking about before the stream started, I think we would like to hear again, at least. You guys, kind of like Joe was saying, are kind of like the poles, and where one started, the other has gone. Tell that story, you two. I want to hear it again, and I think they're going to want to hear it too.
I mean, how the quartets met and such.
All of that. Just go through it, because you guys are.
Well, I mean, we were introduced to each other, right? Scott was out on the street in Minneapolis, I think it was about 2 a.m. on a Saturday night.
Yeah, I think the kind of polarity thing too that he's talking about is that you were in New York and I was in Ohio at the time, and now I'm in New York and you're in Northern Kentucky, which is really kind of part of Ohio.
Yeah, right.
But we were the 4 Under Par, who at that point had I think significantly more notoriety, because they had made the top 10 at the International in 1980, and they were the best known comedy quartet. And in my humble opinion, they are still the best comedy quartet. And the Cincinnati Kids were singing. We were singing in hospitality rooms. We sang at International that year, and we're out on the street in Minneapolis. And I think the line was, you were coming this way, we were coming this way, and Jimmy Klein from the 139th Street was there. And I think Jimmy said, "Crazy meet crazy." And that's when we met, and we kind of have been, hanging out.
Well, we really kind of clicked. And I remember we were singing songs to each other for about an hour or two.
Right, exactly.
That night.
And we even asked for some suggestions from you, because we had a comedy concept that we couldn't quite finish off, and we were asking you guys to help us with it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and I think we were trying to ask if you could make us be a little more, physically attractive, but that didn't.
that was it. Yes, it was.
Is that that's the trade-off?
Yes, they wanted to learn how to be taller and slimmer, and we wanted to know how to be So
and we were trying to be more hunky. It just wasn't working out.
Right.
We always said most of us in the quartet were kind of dumpy in a nondescript manner.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Well, here's just so that we're all clear. Hunky goes away pretty early in your life, by the way.
Dumpy in a nondescript way.
Dumpy is forever, but hunky goes away, So
okay. Well, which one of you is going to teach me how to have hair again? Because I don't remember how to do it anymore.
I think we all of us had hair then, except Brian may. I don't know. Brian always had a little, but all I remember about that was thinking, wow, the Cincinnati Kids always had much better fans, groupies than we did.
I have no comment to make.
Four Under Par fans were all guys. With pocket protectors, with the tape on their glasses, kind of breathing through their nose, going,
"Whoa!
Hey, how about that other funny song?"
Whoa! I take offense to that, sir.
No, Four Under Par appealed to the intellect.
There you go.
That was what it was. The Cincinnati Kids
nerds.
appealed to whatever.
Nerds.
Right.
That's me. I'm one of those. And on that subject, real quick, so everybody out there knows we do have another poll this week. It's the top comedy quartet that never won. I'm doing my best not to look at the results, but I may have peaked. I'm not going to tell you, though.
Okay.
So
you guys have known each other for a long time.
Since 1979.
When Scott came to New York and then he became the director of Big Apple, I sang for Scott for a number of years.
Gotcha.
And those were really good. Those were good times, and it was good years with the Big Apple, because at the time, the rest of Four Under Par, particularly Roger, was very involved, in helping, with the artistic vision, and I was able to contribute in my own little way, but Scott was the front man for this whole thing, and it was really a lot of fun to be part of that.
And also Roger was the person who would occasionally take me out into the hallway when I just couldn't control myself anymore, and he'd talk me off the ledge. That was Roger's function.
Roger was the guy who would walk Scott around 34th Street, just walk him around the block. He's ripped his shirt off again. Let's take him outside.
Oh God.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. My main tools as a director were energy and anger.
Great.
That was pretty much that was my whole toolkit back then.
Okay.
I have more of a toolkit now than I used to, but at that time it was just
Did you say you're more of a tool than you used to be? What was that?
No, well, I have more tools, so I'm less of a tool.
Got it. Okay, I understand.
Less tool, more kit.
Yes, right. Exactly.
But I mean, you kind of grew up and admiring and learning from one of the really greats of all time, Jim Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Jim was that quintessential football coach kind of director, right?
Right.
Someone who everybody loved, but then he would come in,
anyone who sang for Jim, either at the Thoroughbreds or at Southern Gateway, knew that he could. Man, in fact, in '92, when he asked me to come in and coach Gateway on the way to the International that he directed, which they won, I actually had to tell him a couple times, you need to calm down, because he just would get red in the face. And that was my that was what I thought you did, because he won, what, 7 gold medals as a director. So I thought, well,
it's about time he learned something.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
it's about time
God.
you learn to control yourself.
Oh, geez.
But yeah, I had that, and plus I told Joe my high school choir director was also kind of a screamer, a perfectionist and a screamer. So that it kind of came, and I can't attribute all of it to them. I just was kind of that way all on my own too. So
Sure.
so it was a perfect storm, so to speak.
Now some would say that the fact that you kind of have that exposed nerve of emotion is what makes you a good performer too.
Yes.
If you can tap
maybe
if you can tap into
yeah, I think one of the strengths that I had as a lead and as a solo performer and as a director was that I was pretty emotionally connected to whatever I was doing musically.
Sure.
Right. Instead of saying screamer, you could just say passionate. And
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's it. Yeah, which is a nice euphemism for
scream, yeah, right.
Scream,
for
yes.
crazy maniac, But
Well, and that too. So if I exactly, if I may ask this question, we had someone in the chat who said an artist tends to have a bit of a lot of emotion, not a bit of. So, what in terms of directing? Is that necessarily more of a strong suit, or is that necessarily more of a crutch, if I may get your opinion?
Speaking from my personal experience, I think it can be both, which is to say there is strength in one's, ability to create energy and emotion, but also sometimes for me, it was what I did when I couldn't think of anything else to do, so in that sense, it was a crutch. And also, we're dealing with people, and people don't like to be screamed at.
Sure.
And that's what I finally figured out after, and I still have my moments, but not nearly as many. People just won't, and Joe said it before the 10th class, even football coaches cannot get away with that anymore like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
Vince Lombardi would have to change his style if he was going to be a successful football coach nowadays.
Sure.
Just, because that's just the way it is. We're less, we don't want to accept that from leaders.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I will say, as someone who sang for Scott, that I really enjoyed that, because it was like going on a roller coaster ride,
Okay.
For every performance, sometimes the rehearsals could get like, oh God, he's yelling again. But at a performance, what that meant was magic could always happen. So at any moment we might just catch lightning and something special would occur, and that was cool. That was very cool and very enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that both as in quartets and in choruses, that you need to be present enough for spontaneity to occur. I think that's one of the things that too many quartets and choruses don't allow to happen.
Yes.
It's they drill it, and of course you need the drill. You need to know the outline, but then you have to be willing to all together be in the moment, and that's when amazing happens.
I love that. That's very, very Meisner of you.
Wow. Well,
wow.
And all I can do is, I think, and I'm going to, this quartet will remain unnamed, but they were a medalist quartet.
Okay.
And 1 year they had made a part change, and they came back, and I remember saying to them, wow, that just felt a lot more spontaneous and energetic. And they said, yeah, we're going to go back and rehearse that.
Right. It's like, yeah, we don't want it to be that way.
No.
Peter Nuschel used to have something he used to say about that, which is he'd watch top quartets getting coached, and he'd say they're getting the music coached right out of them.
Huh.
Because music needs to breathe. Music needs to be alive and spontaneous.
Sure.
One of the reasons you rehearse and you practice is so you can trust yourself to be alive and spontaneous in the moment when you get on stage.
Sure. So
Zach, do you see any confluence there with what we've been hearing over the last month?
I was just about to go there. So Scott, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. We didn't quite talk about this beforehand. One of the things that I like to do on this show is when we have somebody on with who has a little more experience in some position or another, I like to ask for advice, take advantage of them. Uh, so if you don't mind, I want to ask this question for anybody out there who definitely is not on stream right now, who might be trying to just get their quartet up to that next level, or has some attainable goal that they're not quite sure how to get there. What is your one piece of advice for that guy who definitely is not on stream right now?
Oh gosh, my one piece of advice.
The one big one. If you have
And we're
two,
talking
that's
about,
fine.
let's say, just hypothetically, it's a
Yeah.
group
Sure.
that's already kicking right at the into the A level, and they're technically
Somewhere.
really strong.
Somewhere
Okay.
around there.
And but
Okay.
they're young and still finding their way. What's the big piece of advice?
I would say let go and stop trying to impress people.
Huh.
That's that would be my advice. It's not, stop trying to impress people. Just, when and a lot of that has to do with just trusting yourself and trusting each other, that what you're doing. But I would say, sing for the music. Don't try to impress people. Just sing for the music.
Well, yeah, okay. So I think that this hypothetical person should take that advice. That's a good idea.
It was interesting. You know what George Gibbs said. He actually quoted Pete Nuschel when he was asked that question. He said what Pete said to the Cincinnati Kids was, "What's your bag, man?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pete used to say, and he talked about. He said, Pete said, we've got a bag. The Commons got a bag. What's your bag? And see, our bag at the time, we weren't sure what it was. I mean, if you look at our show, and we put together a really fun show, but most of our stuff was borrowed musically, and even the jokes and stuff, but we embellished it. We eventually brought our own personality to it. And that would, but it took a while to figure out our models, because we had like 5 different quartets that were all like, we loved the Bluegrass Student Union, and we loved the 139th Street, and we loved the Roaring Twenties, and we loved Grandma's Boys, and we loved the Common, and trying to figure out, okay, what do we like about them? What can we sort of incorporate from all of them, yet still retain us in it? And that took a while, because those were 5 very different sorts of groups. But once we found it, I think we did a pretty good job of finding an identity for ourselves. I think we were one of those quartets in the mid '80s that audiences wanted to make sure they were in the room for at an international convention. And sometimes we disappointed greatly, and sometimes we achieved greatly.
But you know what? You were willing to go out on the line and give it a go and be fearless about it eventually. I mean, that's what happened.
Right.
And that's when it became even more interesting for me to see.
Right.
When
But
you were willing to do
there
that.
was a lot of fear at the beginning. I mean, from me specifically, I have to tell you, the first divisional contest that George and Steve and Randy and I ever sang in, I got completely hoarse the day of the contest. And we walked on stage, and literally no sound was coming out of my mouth. We opened up with Row, Row, Row. And I was like, Steve goes, "Oh, John." And the lead sounded like this. That's what it sounded like. And then I'd say, okay, my throat just closed. And then I, tried to take a deep breath, and same thing kept happening every time. You could see the judges were looking at each other like, okay, I don't hear a lead. I don't hear any lead sound right now. But apparently we were entertaining enough to where we got to go on and sing in the district contest. We qualified for the district. I don't know why that happened. And then the first year we went to international.
Because you're all hunks.
Yeah,
that's what it was. It's the hunk thing, man.
It's that terrible singer is such a hunk that I'm going to let him sing. But then when I first year I went to international, I woke up the morning of the contest with sores all over the inside of my mouth. So I was a head case early on, and I had to really overcome these manifestations of nerves that I was getting the first couple, big events.
Jeez, man.
That I was in. Yeah. So I always tell people, who choke in their first contest, I choked my butt off my first contest. Man.
Sure. It's the same thing with stand-up comedy. You got to go out and bomb to figure out what works.
Exactly.
And here's the thing.
Foreign to Park came in last in their first divisional division.
Right. Well, anything worth doing is worth doing badly.
Yes.
Okay.
And
so,
we were told
Wow.
by a judge to break up, that there was we had no
well,
future.
my quartet was told to get a new lead.
Awesome.
And so there you have it.
And yet, four under par in 1980. Literally, they were the only quartet that could possibly have stolen some of the Boston Commons thunder, and they did in 1980. So it was, so they got, they reached the summit pretty much themselves.
But this brings up a pretty good point too, because Scott, we talk about you with the kids and all the stuff you've done in these early years of scruff or whatever you want to call it, but you've become somewhat of an icon in certain areas. I mean, we have someone in the chat here who actually said Scott is the greatest lead singer ever.
Thanks, Mom.
Actually, it was my dad, but that's okay. The point is, the point is, like, that's a big thing. I actually want to cut us off for just a second because we have a little something prepped here. Thanks to our wonderful archivist, we have a little video that I want to show you guys. We can talk about it afterward, but what you need to know is the guy over there playing Merlin, that's our good buddy Scott. Take a listen.
Read when the future of England, nay, the future of all mankind rests in your hands. Leave and let the lives of these poor, miserable, disgusting wretches lie in the hands of those devils. Never.
It seems impossible.
You must try.
Try I will, sir. For your sake, and for the sake of England.
To dream the impossible dream. To fight the unbeatable foe. To bear with unbearable sorrow. To run where the brave dare not go. To right the unrightful wrong. To love your chase from afar. To try where reach the unreachable star. This is my quest. Follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far. To fight for the right without question or pause. To be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know it will only be true to this glorious quest that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this than what man is going to cover with scars should try the courage to reach the unreachable star. And the world will be better for this than what man is going to cover with scars. So try courage to reach the unreachable star.
So, a lot of stuff going on in that one.
Yeah.
Which one of you wants to take this one? Because I think you both got some stories about this.
Scott, why don't you take it first?
Go for it, bud.
Okay. Well, that was, I guess I'm thinking like 1982 or so. Bob Muka used to tell me that I sounded like I was Winston Churchill when I talked, and I after hearing that, I realized he was right. But I could sing better than Winston Churchill. Four Under Par was the guest quartet on the show that year, Joe's quartet. So, that was a really fun show. One of the things that I think that I always took a lot of pride in was how how creative the team at Southern Gateway was at making, stuff like that happen. It was, Pat Iasillo was there then. Don Gray would do the arrangements. Bill Harnish would do the sets and stuff. And, and we had a lot of really talented, creative people there. We always put on really good shows. And we used to do 2 weekends. We would do 4 shows.
Right.
So
that's right.
Now, I still remember from a foreign depart standpoint, that was the point when we were kind of hot and doing lots of shows all around the country.
Wait, I thought you said you were nondescriptly something. I didn't know you were hot.
Well, yeah, I mean, different kind of hot. Yeah.
I mean, hot like in demand to do shows. Not there was no other in demand other than Go Away. But yes,
Okay.
we were doing lots of shows. Let's put it that way. And I still remember going into Gateway and saying, I was died and went to heaven. This was so creative and so fun and so much talent in there. And for Foreign Depart, most of the time we had to provide most of it. And most of the chapter shows, we were the entertainment.
Sure.
And here on Gateway, we were supplementing what was already an awesome show, right? So we were under some pressure there too, but it was also just so much fun. I mean, to watch it all and go, yes, this is how it should be, right?
Sure. And this show was King Arthur Declares Bankruptcy.
That was the title of the show. Okay.
Yes.
And Steve, my bass, had a major role in that show too.
Mm-hmm.
As Joe said, he carried around a falcon on his shoulder or something like that.
Yeah, I still remember him kind of haughtily walking around. He stayed in character backstage.
Yes, exactly.
He was walking around very haughty with this falcon.
Yeah. Was that the show where there was a flash pot on stage that exploded? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, and I think it got overloaded one night with too much powder, and it nearly singed Steve's face or something.
Oh,
it was,
no.
I think it also it might have blown. I think it blew Bob Muka down.
Yeah, well, Bob was pretty skinny, so probably
he was pretty easy.
Right,
he was pretty
exactly.
He was dressed like a jester with the big curly shoes, and he had a trumpet and he was going around. And
right,
I would say they had a funny wig on him, but I don't think so.
I don't. Do you need one? I mean,
but that's an example of nobody was too proud to be silly.
Oh yeah, man.
Back then, which was really, really fun.
Yep. There's something about, yeah, I mean, pride's a sin. Something about just having no shame, man.
Yeah, here was the other thing. It was also, besides the Cincinnati Kids, going, wow, you got the Roaring Twenties on here, which were one of our heroes.
Right, and they were
from our standpoint.
Right, exactly.
And I know they were a mentor for Cincinnati Kids, and then the Cincinnati Kids, who we started to make a friendship with, and we felt a real kinship with because we did shows with them, and it was always a great show because we didn't overlap much.
Right, exactly. And we did, and in Chicago, we blew the Rapscallions off the stage. Just so everybody knows that. And if anybody wants to know that, in Chicago, we slaughtered the Rapscallions.
Oh my!
Thank you for joining us for the last Southern Gateway Chorus live stream.
Oh my goodness! I didn't.
If I said something wrong, I'm sorry.
It was some nameless quartet that we interred that night, but it's okay.
Okay, cool.
The Cincinnati Kids were awesome that night.
Moving on.
And Foreign Depart was awesome that night.
Right. I mean, no quartet could have hung in there with the awesomeness of that.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So real quick, outside of the barbershop world, you have also done a bit of performing, or performance style things. I don't even honestly know, and I should.
Right.
So tell me about that kind of thing, and where did the barbershop world kind of help or aid in those situations?
Well,
first of all, what were they, for those who don't know?
Well, I mean, I've done some theater, just some semi-professional and even community theater up here in New York. Just some, I was in a production, a real good production at a semi-professional theater, a professional theater with a full-time season, an artistic director. I did the Fantastics. I did
Upstairs, Downstairs.
I did Barefoot in the Park.
Barefoot in the Park, that's the one.
Did Barefoot in the Park. You and Roger saw that one, right? That was in a little theater in St. James.
That was fun.
I did a world premiere one act called the Straight Man's Musical Theater Project, which was a one act play that we did the world premiere of, which was basically the idea was we were 3 heterosexual men applying for funding as a minority because we were the only heterosexual men in musical theater. And we did. And we did, I've played Harold Hill in some productions of The Music Man, and I also did it, of course, twice at Gem City when they did their all barbershop version of it.
Okay.
And I've done so I used to do an act where I went into libraries and senior centers and talked about musical theater, like would talk about songwriting teams, and then I'd sing. It was kind of a combination lecture concert thing that I did. So.
But you also got involved with Jimmy Fallon, right? And with the ragtime.
I did that. Well, that was through Tom Shalhoub.
Right.
And he was the first one I did. Tom called and he said, we want to put together this. Jimmy wants to put together this quartet thing, and it was before Jimmy was doing the Tonight Show. It was back when he was doing the Late Show, and he said he was wondering if you could come in and help us out with that a little bit. And Tom sings in a quartet called Scully Square. And his baritone is a really good arranger named Bob Martin, and Bob would take these contemporary songs and arrange them. And of course, the whole idea is they're songs no quartet would ever think of singing because of either the subject matter or whatever.
Yeah.
And they dress in their old timey barbershop outfits. And I did that. And then later when he got on Tonight Show, he did it as a fairly regular thing. And a few times they had me come in and work with it. They're really, they all sang, pretty well. In fact, their baritone and tenor were really good. Tom sang bass and Jimmy sang lead. And then they would have a guest artist sometimes that would come in and sing. And I'd usually maybe work once during the week with the four, and then the day of with the guest artist that they were in.
I was always relatively impressed with, particularly the fact that Jimmy Fallon could hang in.
Well, he's a good mimic. He's a good mimic, so he can, so he's got a good ear, which I think helps. And if I get too technical, I'd say, well, you're on a third on that chord, so you need to say it just a little higher than that. That's when the eyes glaze over, which it does at my chorus too. So, I understand that. That's the extent of my musical knowledge, by the way, is just knowing that
there's a third.
That what the third is. Yes,
gotcha.
Exactly. So.
I'm just now trying to figure out where the 7 is. I'm right. Getting there.
You know what, though, Scott, you've got a wonderful perspective on this, because it's something that we need to wrestle with, I think, as barbershoppers, is that, we have our own little world. We've got our world of barbershop, and all of our good quartets very often just copy the other good quartets. And,
right.
And we become great cover bands of our own stuff.
Sure.
Right.
And if we do enough of that, we close the circle tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and it becomes less and less like real music and real performance. Right?
Yeah, I think so. And also, of course, and you are a judge, so I don't want to be too critical. But what Terry Clark always said, and for anybody that doesn't know who Terry Clark was, he was the bass of the Boston Comet, and then I sang with Terry for 9 years in our town. Terry always felt like the fact that judges coach contributes to that, because the judges coach a group to do something, they do it. That works. And so there's more of it, and there's no way to really escape the circle that creates. And so, and I think that contributes to it. But I also think it's, in almost every endeavor, success is imitated. So to be an original in anything is tough and requires a lot of conviction that you want to be an original. And if your priority is, I want to win the next contest, you're not going to be an original most of the time, because you're going to try to do what has always been the winning formula.
That is a really interesting perspective on. I've never thought of it that way, but that makes sense. How are you going to, if you know the thing that worked before, why wouldn't you? That's wow. Okay.
Right. And so from my perspective, a little bit of the problem, and I don't mean to denigrate all the groups that have won, because it takes a lot of hard work to get that good.
Sure.
But if the goal is we want to win the contest, it's much less likely that you're going to be an original, which is why, I have to say, after, the Cincinnati Kids quit singing and I was living in New York, I had several opportunities where international champions called me and asked me if I'd like to sing lead with them in a new quartet. And if the first thing they said was, I think we could win the international contest in a couple years, I actually wasn't interested. That's why when Terry called, that was the most interesting one to me, because that wasn't their reason for wanting to sing with me, and so, and singing with Terry and Larry. I mean, the downside of not planning to win a contest is it doesn't give you a real goal to shoot for on a regular basis, so rehearsals were hard to come by in that group. So, but I do think that it's, we need to prioritize being authentic performers and being musicians more than we want to prioritize getting a 93 on the score sheet.
But like a 93 would be cool.
Yeah, it's
just throwing it out there.
Well, I could say, Scott, that Our Town was like one of my favorite, musical quartets that was also one of the sloppiest.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I said to Terry, my vision for this quartet when we started was I wanted to kind of be what the Boston Common was, only a little cleaner. And instead, we were just not quite what the Boston Common was, and significantly sloppier.
But it didn't much matter to me because.
And it didn't matter to audiences on shows either. It mattered to judges, and it mattered to the type of person who's sitting there going, I wonder what this would score like in a competition. Those are the people it mattered to. But to audiences we did several shows with international champion quartets, and almost always got a better reaction. And I say that because one of our defining characteristics was that we did not try to put ourselves between the composer and the song. We tried to, as much as possible, sing the song the way that the composer wrote it and the way audiences wanted to hear it. We didn't want an arranger that was going to do all kinds of unnecessary gymnastics. Not that the unnecessary gymnastics aren't impressive sometimes, because they really are. But
yeah, but is impressive as good as emotional or engaging?
No. I keep referring to Terry because he was one of my heroes, and I felt
Mine
blessed
too.
to get a chance to sing with him. But he used to say, my favorite comment to hear is not, boy, you guys are great. It's, I love that song. That's his favorite. That was what he wanted somebody to say. I love that song, because that means you were presenting the song to the audience and not simply showing off your skill set.
I like that. That's really cool. This is why I love having people like you guys on the show, because that's not a perspective that I would have heard anywhere else. Like I'm stealing a lot of this. I hope you know that. Someday I'm going to be your ages if I live that long, and I will.
We understand. Well, that's code for saying, Scott, that we are just decrepitly old.
Exactly. He's saying, I want to learn from these old guys before they die. Right. Exactly.
I never said that.
No, but it's implied, sir.
Right. No, we can infer it from the other language.
Don't I have to imply before it can be implied?
Nah.
No, we're good at drawing inferences from that.
Oh God. Okay.
Well, don't try not to ever use the word wise when describing me, because that is the kiss of death.
Wise just means old.
Right. Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, or kind of owlish.
Oh God.
Well, the thing is, I would like to take these off but I can't see a thing right now if I take these off. You guys are just a blur. I only need them for reading, but I need them for to see you guys.
Perfect.
I'm just a blur even when people are in focus. I'm still a blur.
By the way, Joe said earlier that he sang for me. I also sang for him when he directed Big Apple. And that was always a lot of fun. Joe, the thing that I was fascinated with about Joe when I was directing Big Apple, he was singing Big Apple and directing the Twin Shores chorus out on Long Island.
Yep.
And Joe got more. Joe had the opposite approach I had. Joe's approach was less is more. You were not, you never browbeat. You were so relentlessly positive. And that chorus got really good.
Right.
And they weren't when he started, and that was one thing that I tried to, imbibe a little bit from Joe, is that, one of the reasons that I have a bigger toolkit now is from watching him at Twin Shores and then singing for him at Big Apple, because he had a much more I don't even know if positive is the right word, just a much more trusting approach than I had.
And then I would go home and kick the cat.
Yeah. Right.
You know, but
Cool.
I really actually it was a very conscious thing on my part. And, you know, I'm actually I'm fortunate enough now, blessed to be spending a little bit of time up in front of Gateway.
Right.
As are we.
And I'm trying to bring that same, trying to bring that same kind of, you know, first of all, Jeff's already mostly there. He's there.
Jeff is great. I
He's
mean,
there.
Jeff
He's
is
wonderful.
really, he's got such
so
great
wonderful.
people skills and leadership skills.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, like you want to, you know, like Jeff is saying to me, give me some feedback. I said, you're doing great. What am I going to tell you? You're doing
That's your
Right.
feedback. You're doing great, buddy.
Right.
You know?
Well,
You know.
that's, yeah, I mean, that's part of it too, is that the chorus and he have such a good relationship that you
Right.
don't really have to,
Exactly.
you know, you don't have to pound on anybody for anything there. And when I have come in a few times to coach, you know, before you got there, Joe, but when
Yeah.
I had come in to coach, I just felt like, wow, all I need to do is just say something. I don't need to, you know, rah or, you know, shake anything up, because he's got everyone, you know, where he wants them.
Well, but you know what? In all these cases, it always comes down to trust. It comes down to, and I'm going to say it, this is really maudlin, but love. People love Jim Miller, and so they put up with the screaming. They were
Right.
okay with that because they loved the man.
Well,
right?
because Jim, behind all that screaming, was a guy with the biggest heart you've ever met. You know,
And everyone
Right.
knew it.
Right.
Right. And so there's always got to be that kind of relationship underneath all these the most successful organizations, the most successful performers have to have that kind of love and trust. I'm sorry.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
No, I mean, it's
I
true.
think that's true. That's true.
You
And,
know?
and the funny thing is, I mean, even football coaches, like even the Bill Parcells of the world, you know, the guys you think of as kind of abusive, they talk about that too. You know, there's love in anything that you're in I think any organization that is trying to achieve together has to have that to maximize what they're going to do. They have to have love and respect for, you know, for all the people that are involved in that endeavor.
So before we close up, how's things going with your women's group? Have they gotten back together?
We have been rehearsing in person since June.
Awesome.
We're doing now. We're insisting that anybody in the room be fully vaccinated, and we're wearing masks at rehearsal, which we weren't for a while. But some of the women got very, you know, really, you know, freaked about not doing that.
They probably heard the Cindy Hansen story, and that was
Yes, that's exactly right. That was the you know, the turning point there. We've lost some members. You know, through having to Zoom for over a year, we had some people drop off who haven't come back yet. We had the experience. We had just run a really successful guest weeks, you know, 4 weeks of guest night, and there were 8 brand new, never sung barbershop before members that joined the week before we had to shut everything down. They passed their auditions and joined, and only 3 of them have stayed with the chorus.
Timing is everything.
Yeah. But it's a good group. I mean, it's a really good group. We've done well at regional contests. We've qualified for international every year that we've sung. And
good.
But it looks like there's some possibility that for a 3rd year in a row we may not have a regional contest next spring. And it's hard. You know, even if competition isn't your goal, it's a nice focus to have, and so that kind of throws things a little bit into a disarray.
Milestone, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, among other things, what you find is, you know, you start to realize what's really important, right, Scott? You start to find what's important about what we do, and the competition is a way to get together and convene. It's a way to get together.
Right, and not just with your chorus, but with all the people. That I think is the biggest thing. Actually, tomorrow we are having a regional Zoom meeting for the whole region with some educators coming in and stuff. And that's what I think everybody misses the most.
Sure.
Is the chance to see people. I know with me and barbershop, the biggest reason I looked forward to international contests every year was that it was going to give me a chance to see people I only got to see once a year and talk with them. And, you know, I loved, you know, getting the chance to talk with, you know, Don Gray, who sponsored me into the society in 1976, and to talk with guys like, you know, the guys in the 139th Street Quartet or in the, you know, any of those groups, or to see, you know, Jeff Oxley, who I roomed with before, we both, before he became the,
Jeff
great
Oxley.
Jeff Oxley.
Right.
And, to get to see people like that and talk with them and find out what's going on and, and kind of keep up with their triumphs and their tragedies and all that kind of stuff is important. And that's another thing that I have to say is, I lost my wife a little over 2 years ago. And so much of the support I got was from the barbershop world about, after that happened, both before she passed and after she passed. I got, from people that I only see once a year.
Mm-hmm.
That, so that, that is the most important thing about what we do. And the chance to harmonize together and make nice music is a nice added bonus.
I like it.
And Zach, I think we might have had this discussion before. It's like, there's always the debate between does musical excellence beget the fellowship, or does fellowship beget musical excellence? And that was always Freddie King's thing.
Sure.
One of my real heroes, and I think Scott
Right.
also.
Right.
And Freddie always said that the fellowship creates the music, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I never understood that as clearly as in this last period of time.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Back.
Right.
So, I mean, hey, by the way, I believe that tonight and tomorrow there's an actual live district happening in Illinois. I think the Illinois district is happening.
Really?
Yeah, there was a competition going on. So,
Wow.
and it's happening live. Now, I don't know under what circumstances who's masked and who's not. But
Sure.
Right.
But
Are they singing with a full audience there? Or are they singing with
200, at least 200 people now?
Wow.
The smart ass among me would say that's the Illinois district. That's about what they normally do.
Right.
Well, on that note, this was fun, Scott. I was so excited to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we go anywhere, do either of you guys have a guess as to which quartet won the poll? Your options are 4 Under Par, Lunch Break, Freestyle, and Cardiac Arrest. Who do you think won the poll this week?
I think it's 4 Under Par.
Favorite. I think my favorite out of that bunch is probably Freestyle. Because
your favorite out of that bunch is 4 Under Par. Stop it.
Joe's doing everything he can to get the pin to his ego.
No.
All right, the winner was Cardiac Arrest.
Wow, we
There
have some longtime members on this poll and voting on that one.
I mean, how do you beat Darkness on the Delta? Like that was.
Well,
Darkness
no, I
on
mean,
the Delta.
it was good. I mean, they were good. They were good stuff. But
Well, that's what
I
happens
still
when you
call
have
for
an advertising genius in your quartet, right?
Right.
That's who gets to write all that,
Yeah.
write all the parodies.
Right.
Well,
like
that was Lynn.
Like I was saying, Scott, great to have you on. Anything you want to close with before we call it done?
Nothing of any consequence. I just thank you for having me here. This was fun. I enjoyed this a lot, and it's a really cool thing you're doing here. So
Yeah, I'm gonna. You know what, Scott? We were working on getting various people. I really want to get Pete Nuschel on. I think that would.
Oh man, I think you should. Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen, by the way, that you've seen that video of them singing "Oh My Alabama" on? Is that the coolest quartet you've ever seen?
It's
seriously.
By far.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
watching that and going, holy smokes.
Exactly.
It's not just cool, musical, easy.
Right. It's just
not concerned with all the baloney.
Right. They're my model for I'm not saying they sang the best of anybody, but the whole package, it's them.
And for those of you who are not barbershoppers, this is what happens when barbershop nerds get together.
Right, exactly.
We cavell. We start to go on.
Right.
Okay, cool.
First we kvetch, then we cavell.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, anyway, Scott, thank you so much for being on. I had a blast. I hope our audience did
Yeah,
too.
I think it's great. It's always great catching up, and
Yeah.
spending some time, and hopefully we'll see you in person soon.
Yeah, next time I wasn't able to come in last week, but I hopefully when I get down to Ohio next, I will definitely stop in.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Hey.
And that'll be it for the week. Until next week, my name is Zach Coleman.
And I'm Joe Hunter.
And on behalf of the Southern Gateway Chorus, I hope you have a great week.
See you, folks.